Imagine owning a car worth millions of dollars, and one day it just vanishes. Not stolen in some Hollywood heist, not crashed, just gone. Like it drove into an automotive twilight zone and never came back. Today we're diving into 6 cars that did exactly that. Number 1. It's 1956 and America is obsessed with jets, rockets, and space travel. General Motors decides to build the most futuristic car imaginable for its legendary Motorama show. Enter the Oldsmobile Golden Rocket, a car that looked like it came straight from a sci-fi movie. This wasn't just some mock-up. The Golden Rocket was a fully functional 2-seater built with a fiberglass body painted in bronze metallic. It had a 324 cubic inch rocket V8 making 275 horsepower. Serious power for a car weighing just 2,500 pounds. The design was pure rocket ship with torpedo-shaped rear fenders and chrome bumper bullets that looked ready for liftoff. But the really wild stuff was inside. When you opened the door, the 2-piece roof panels lifted up like gull-wing doors. The seats automatically swiveled outward and raised up 3 inches to make getting in easier. The speedometer was mounted right in the center of a 2-spoke steering wheel that you could tilt with buttons. Groundbreaking technology for the 1950s. It was like sitting in a fighter jet cockpit. The Golden Rocket debuted at the 1956 Motorama to massive crowds. In 1957, it traveled to the Paris Motor Show, where it caused a sensation. GM even featured it in a promotional film called Designed for Dreaming. That split rear window design, it inspired the iconic 1963 Corvette Stingray split window coupe. Then something strange happened. The car just disappeared. GM had a common practice back then. They'd destroy concept cars after shows to avoid liability issues. But here's the mystery. Photographic evidence shows the Golden Rocket still existed as late as 1962. That's 6 years after most show cars got crushed. Rumors surfaced that it was hidden in New Jersey. Another story claims GM design chief Harley Earl kept it for his personal collection. Motorama historian David W. Temple investigated extensively, but came up empty. His conclusion? The Golden Rocket likely vanished into what he calls the twilight zone of lost show cars. Number 2. September 22, 1954, the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. General Motors is showing off its latest dream cars at the Motorama Extravaganza. But one car stops everyone in their tracks. A Corvette station wagon that shouldn't exist. They called it the Corvette Nomad, and it was bonkers. This was the world's first sports wagon, a wild mashup of the sexy new Corvette sports car and a practical 2-door station wagon. It had Corvette styling up front, flowing lines, and that distinctive split rear window with chrome strips on the tailgate. The car was a hit. GM loved showing it off. But here's where things get weird. Automotive historian David W. Temple discovered something shocking while researching his book on Motorama cars. He found evidence that GM didn't build just one Nomad. They built 3. One was definitely scrapped in July 1955. But wait, photos show a Nomad on display at the Canadian National Exhibition in Toronto in late August 1955. That's 6 weeks after the first one was supposedly crushed. Same car repainted, or a second Nomad? The plot thickens. Rumors surfaced in the 70s about the Waldorf Nomad being stolen from GM years earlier and stashed in a warehouse in Newport Beach, California. Temple investigated this lead extensively and nothing. There were possibly 3 Nomads total. One scrapped, one photographed in Toronto, and one allegedly in that Newport Beach warehouse, but none have ever resurfaced. Not one. The Nomad concept was so successful that GM put a production version into showrooms for 1955, the famous Chevy Bel Air Nomad. But that production car was based on the full-size Bel Air, not the Corvette. The original Corvette-based Nomad? Gone. Vanished. Lost to history. Number 3.
The Concorso d'Eleganza for me is special because it's a celebration of design.
March 1970, Geneva Motor Show. The legendary Italian design house Bertone unveils something spectacular. A BMW concept car that looks 20 years ahead of its time. Sharp angles, vertical kidney grills, absolutely stunning. And then, after the show, it disappears for almost 50 years. The BMW Garmisch was created by Marcello Gandini, the same design genius who gave us the Lamborghini Countach and Miura. Gandini built the Garmisch on a BMW 2002 platform in just a few months at Bertone Studio in Turin, Italy. Everything was handmade. The car was named after Garmisch-Partenkirchen, a famous German ski resort. We picked the name because skiing was very popular at the time, Gandini recalled. It evoked dreams of winter sports and alpine elegance. The design was radical. It featured an angular interpretation of BMW's kidney grille, square glass-covered headlamps, and distinctive louvers on the rear panels. The honeycomb mesh covering the rear window was pure Gandini style. Inside, a vertically mounted radio in the center console, an oversized passenger mirror for makeup, and a flamboyant mix of cream colors and 1970s materials. After its Geneva debut, the Garmisch made several more appearances on the 1970 show circuit. And then, nothing. The car vanished completely. Not even Gandini himself knew what happened to it. For almost 5 decades, the only proof it existed was a handful of faded black and white photographs. No sketches survived, no detailed plans, nothing. Then in 2018, Adrian van Hooijdonk, BMW's head of design, found one of those old photos. He became obsessed. Van Hooijdonk personally contacted the 80-year-old Gandini and asked for help recreating the car from memory. BMW assembled a team. They built a new Garmisch from scratch using a real 2002 chassis, working from those few photographs and Gandini's memories. It was hand-built in Turin, just like the original. The recreation debuted at the 2019 Ville d'Est Concours. Gandini was the guest of honor. Looking at the finished car, he said, "It is hard for me to even distinguish it from the original. But here's the thing, that's a replica. The real 1970 Garmisch still missing. It could be crushed, hidden in a private collection, or sitting in some Swiss bar near Geneva. Nobody knows." Before we continue, quick thing. If these automotive mysteries are blowing your mind, hit that subscribe button. We've got 3 more insane disappearances coming up, including a car that vanished during a civil war. Let's keep going. Number 4. February 2014, Ukraine's capital erupts in protests. President Viktor Yanukovych flees the country by helicopter, leaving behind his lavish presidential estate. Journalists rush in and discover something incredible: a massive collection of vintage cars worth millions. Soviet-era classics, Mercedes-Benzes, a Rolls-Royce, and even a 1964 Chevrolet. But one car is missing, and it's the most valuable of them all. A small placard sits next to an empty parking spot. The sign reads, 1938 Horch 855 Spezial Roadster, one of only 7 ever built, worth at least $2 million. The Horch 855 Spezial was German automotive royalty, built by Auto Union between 1935 and 1939. This was the flagship model, meant to compete with the Mercedes-Benz 500K. It had a 4,900 cubic centimeter inline 8 engine, making 120 horsepower, mated to a 5-speed manual transmission. Only 3 are known to survive today. But this one, chassis number unknown, had vanished. Ukrainian news outlets investigated. People familiar with Yanukovych's collection confirmed the Horch had definitely been there not long before the protests. This wasn't a case of a fake placard for a car that never existed. The car was real. The provenance is fascinating. It was likely purchased originally by a top Nazi official in the Third Reich. After World War II, it probably went to the Soviet Union as a war trophy, perhaps seized by a Red Army commander like Marshal Zhukov. who conquered Berlin. Then, somehow, it ended up in Yanukovych's hands. So, what happened? The car may have been removed days before the protests, perhaps crossing the border in an enclosed trailer before road checkpoints were set up. Others think Yanukovych took it with him when he fled to Russia. When confronted by the media in Rostov-on-Don, Russia, Yanukovych claimed not all the cars belonged to him. Foreign lawyers will soon be contacting the courts, he said. But no lawyers came forward. No Horch appeared. Number 5. 1934 Paris. The Grand Palais hosts the Paris Motor Show. Among the European luxury cars, one American machine stops the crowd, a Duesenberg SJ-506 with coachwork by the French company Franet. It's a two-door convertible speedster with a supercharged 8-cylinder engine, pumping out 320 horsepower. In 1934, that's absolutely insane power. Only 36 supercharged Duesenbergs were ever built. This one, chassis number 506, catches the eye of Émile Béguin, a wealthy French perfume maker and racing driver. He buys it and drives it from Paris to his home in Algeria. The Duesenberg becomes Béguin's pride and joy. In 1935, Béguin co-drove a Duesenberg at the 24 Hours of Le Mans race. He's living the dream, racing fast cars and driving an absolute masterpiece on North African roads. Then 1962 arrives. The Algerian War of Independence reaches its brutal peak. But automotive historian Alain Dollfus reveals that by this point, the Duesenberg had been wrecked. Béguin planned to restore it and had even acquired a second Duesenberg, a Kellner-bodied town car for parts. But civil war forced Béguin to flee Algeria. He abandons his estate, leaving both Duesenbergs behind. He had no choice. It's either flee or die. Both cars vanish completely. Several theories exist. Some believe the cars were destroyed during the chaos of war, bombed, burned, or deliberately wrecked. Others think they were stolen by soldiers or looters during the fighting. Here's what makes this heartbreaking. If the SJ-506 survived and could be restored, it would be one of the most original, historically significant Duesenbergs in existence. 60-plus years have passed. Algeria went through years of war, then stabilized. Car collectors have searched, historians have investigated, but chassis number 506 never resurfaced. It's either buried in Algerian soil, hidden in some private collection, or sitting forgotten in a warehouse somewhere between Europe and North America. The most beautiful missing car mystery? It might just be sitting in a barn, waiting for someone to open the door. Number 6.
If you get a seat here, there is so much room for
Imagine finding a car worth over $1 million just sitting by a river. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, that's exactly what happened in Tennessee around 1961. A police officer discovered a battered Tucker 48 abandoned along a riverbank. He did what any car guy would do. He towed it home. But here's where the story gets wild. Between 1946 and 1949, Preston Tucker built what many call the most revolutionary American car ever made. The Tucker 48 had a rear-mounted helicopter engine, a center headlight that turned with the steering wheel, a pop-out safety windshield, and safety features that wouldn't become standard for another 20 years. Tucker built exactly 51 cars, including one prototype, before the company was forced into bankruptcy amid controversy and a stock fraud trial. Here's the crazy part. Out of those 51 Tuckers, 47 still survive today. We know where every single one is, except for one, Tucker number 1042. The Tennessee police officer who found 1042 by the river towed the car to his house. The Tucker was in rough shape, but it was there, a real Tucker 48 just sitting in a cop's yard. Then tragedy struck. The officer got into a serious motorcycle accident and ended up in hospital for an extended period. While he was recovering in the hospital, something happened. His landlord, apparently tired of having a beat-up car sitting on the property, had it towed away. And then nothing. No records, no documentation, no trace. The car simply vanished. Here's what makes this heartbreaking. Tucker experts have confirmed that parts of the 3 other lost Tuckers have surfaced over the years, used to restore other surviving cars. But number 1042, it's the only Tucker that remains completely unaccounted for. Think about what this means today. Tucker 48s regularly sell at auction for $1 million. Some have fetched nearly $3 million. And somewhere, maybe in a Tennessee junkyard, maybe crushed decades ago, maybe hidden in a barn, Tucker 1042 could still be waiting. If you found this fascinating, smash that like button and subscribe. Got theories on where these cars might be? Drop them in the comments. And here's a question for you. If you could find just one of these cars, which one would it be?